Welcome back to First Verse. This is Steve with Steve and Marissa. We're going to be reading out of Numbers 14.
No.
No?
15.
Numbers 15. Yes, we are. Oops.
Oops, indeed.
Had it on the wrong page. Numbers 15, excuse me.
Okay, so this section is titled Wandering in the Deserts. And this is basically chapter 15 through chapter 21. And just kind of recapping from last chapter, it says, after their disobedience and unsuccessful attempt to enter the promised land, the Israelites were condemned to wander 40 years in the desert. Even in the midst of this punishment, the people continued to rebel. Surprise, surprise, right? And thus God continued to punish them. But the hearts of the people who remained hard, and rebellious. Oh, like meaning after all the punishments, they were still a stiff-necked people. Hard hearts toward God may bring similar calamity to us. And then this is titled Additional Regulations and Supplementary Offerings. Okay, you start.
Verse 1? Mm-hmm. Okay. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, and say to them, when you have come into the land that you are about to inhabit, or when you have come into the land you are to inhabit, which I am giving you. I notice that the Lord keeps on telling them, keep in mind, I'm giving you this. Why? Because there are rebellious and stiff-necked people who don't seem to understand that they're not doing this on their own. Verse 3, and you make an offering by fire to the Lord, a burnt offering or a sacrifice to fulfill a vow as a free will offering, or in your appointed feasts to make a sweet aroma to the Lord from the herd or the flock. Then he who presents his offering to the Lord shall bring a grain offering of 1/10. This is where the tithe starts to come in. A grain offering of 1/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/4 of a hin of oil, and 1/4 of a hin of wine as a drink offering. You shall prepare with the burnt offering or the sacrifice for each lamb. Or for a ram, you shall prepare a grain offering 2/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with 1/3 of a hin of oil. And as a drink offering, you shall offer 1/3 of a hin of wine as a sweet aroma to the Lord. And when you prepare a young bull as a burnt offering, or as a sacrifice to fulfill a vow, or as a peace offering to the Lord, then shall be offered with the young bull a grain offering of 3/10 of an ephah of fine flour mixed with half a hin of oil. And you shall bring as the drink offering half a hin of wine as an offering made by fire, a sweet aroma to the Lord. Thus it shall be done for each young bull, for each ram, or for each lamb or young goat. Verse 12, according to the number that you prepare, so you shall do with everything according to their number.
And then verse 13, everyone who is native born must do these things in this way when he brings an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord. For the generations to come, whenever an alien or anyone else living among you presents an offering made by fire as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, he must do exactly as you do. The community is to have the same rules for you and for the alien living among you. This is a lasting ordinance for the generations to come. You and the alien shall be the same before the Lord. The same laws and regulations will apply both to you and to the alien living among you. The Lord said to Moses, speak to the Israelites and say to them, when you enter the land which I am taking you, and you eat the food of the land, present a portion as an offering to the Lord. Present a cake from the first of your ground meal and present it as an offering from the threshing floor. Throughout the generations to come, you are to give this offering to the Lord from the first of your ground meal.
So, to speak on some of the confusion that's happening here, Swigert says that these instructions are to be carried out, or would not be carried out until they reach the promised land. So this is just like a heads up whenever you get there. But we have no way of knowing exactly when the Lord gave this information to Moses, because if you remember, like one chapter before, he was like, "Hey, by the way, y'all are about to die because of y'all's stupidity and refusal to follow me."
I would assume that this is sometime in the 40 years of continued wandering in
Yeah.
the desert.
Yeah, I would, because chapter 15 goes into more of the laws of drink offerings and some other
We're
stuff.
almost to Korah's rebellion.
Yeah,
Oh man,
yeah. So there's
lots of stuff happening.
there's lots of stuff happening at like almost at the same time at some of the side by side action points. We're coming up to the story of Balaam soon, so this is kind of like a hyphenated portion of the Bible, similar to Judah and Tamar. Their story took place at some point, and it was probably sometime around when Joseph entered into Egypt. So, not really sure on the date, but
But
that's
we don't
why.
have to know.
Yeah, we don't have to know. This is just one of the things that happens in the Bible.
The only note I have for that section so far is on verse 3, and it says, "An aroma pleasing to the Lord" means that God would be pleased with their sacrifices.
Amen.
Let's just keep reading.
Okay.
Offerings for unintentional sins. Now, if you unintentionally fail to keep any of these commands the Lord gave Moses, any of the Lord's commands to you through him, from the day the Lord gave them and continuing through the generations to come, and if this is done unintentionally without the community being aware of it, then the whole community is to offer a young bull for a burnt offering as an aroma pleasing to the Lord, along with its prescribed grain offering and drink offering, and a male goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make atonement for the whole Israelite community, and they will be forgiven. For it was not intentional, and they have brought to the Lord for it was not intentional, and they brought to the Lord for their wrong an offering made by fire and a sin offering. The whole Israelite community and the aliens living among them will be forgiven, because all the people involved in the unintentional wrong were involved in the unintentional wrong. That just reads really weird.
You're in verse 27 now?
Yeah.
Okay.
But if just one person sins unintentionally, he must bring a year-old female goat for a sin offering. The priest is to make atonement before the Lord for the one who erred by sinning unintentionally, and when the atonement has been made for him, he will be forgiven. One and the same law applies to everyone who sins unintentionally, whether he is native-born, Israelite, or an alien. But anyone who sins defiantly, whether native-born or alien, blasphemes the Lord, and that person must be cut off from his people, because he has despised the Lord's word and broken his commands. That person must surely be cut off. His guilt remains on him. It says God was willing to forgive those who unintentionally sinned if they realized their mistakes quickly and corrected. Of course, but those who defiantly or deliberately sinned received the harsher judgment. You want to read 32 on?
Sure. Now, while the children of Israel were in the wilderness, they found a man gathering sticks on the Sabbath day. And those who found him gathering sticks brought him to Moses and Aaron and to the congregation. They put him under guard because It had not been explained what should be done to him. Then the Lord said to Moses, "The man must surely be put to death." My goodness. All the congregation shall stone him with the stones outside the camp. So the Lord commanded Moses. All the congregation brought him outside the camp and stoned him with stones, and he died. That's sad.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness. Verse 37. Again the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel. Tell them to make tassels on the corners of their garments throughout the generations, and to put a blue thread in the tassels of the corners. And you shall have the tassel, and you may look upon it and remember the commandments of the Lord and do them, as you may not follow the harlotry to which your own heart and own eyes are inclined, and that you may remember and do all of my commandments and be holy for your God. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt to be your God. I am the Lord your God." I'm going to need some notes on this one.
Mine says, like, the man gathering wood was a deliberate sin because they all knew not to do work on the Sabbath. Like, he shouldn't have been doing work on the Sabbath. Like, that was the sin, was not respecting the Sabbath.
Are we under that law? I hope not. I don't think we are.
Yeah. But he should have been resting, not working. I know. That's a really...
I'm going to have to get some additional commentary on that.
Yeah.
That's a hard one to digest.
And then it says the tassels were to remind the people not to seek after their own lustful desires, but to seek the Lord.
All unnecessary work was forbidden under penalty of death. The penalty for presumptuous sin, in verse 35. The man knew better, but evidently defied the law.
Mm-hmm. Well, and like one of the things with the whole manna deal, like they were clearly told you don't gather manna on the Sabbath. You gather 2 days worth the day before. So like they all knew not to work on the Sabbath.
Provision was made for the sin in ignorance, or provision was made for the sin of ignorance in connection with the obedience of the word of the Lord, but there was no offering commanded for the sin of indifference. Regrettably, that sin is very visible today in modern Christianity. Human opinion is set above divine injunction. So the blue tassel, the blue thing, this was to make it visible to all of Israel that they were a heavenly people. And that great fact should especially be present to their hearts when necessarily coming in closest touch with the earth. It was to be worn on the outer garment and on each of the 4 corners of the tassels of blue. So it was a reminder, don't be dumb. I know God's law. I know the punishment of God's law. But I'm going to take a page from the ignorant folks and say, not take a page. People have a hard time understanding God's character because they read Jesus, and Jesus is far more forgiving than, or appears far more forgiving than the law here that says, if you work on the Sabbath, you are put to death. So when Jesus told the Pharisees, you untie your donkey on the Sabbath, you violate, you're a hypocrite of your own laws. But then the Pharisee or the Sadducee isn't put to death. So I don't know where to put this. This is clearly defining God's character, which is and his holiness, and the sincerity and the graveness, the seriousness, the direness to all of his character. But if I can take anything out of this immediately, I would say that I understand why people have a hard time understanding how the God presented in the Pentateuch is perceivably different from later on in the Old Testament, and when Jesus shows up on the scene some 800 years after this, and I guess 1200 years after this. So, okay, I understand that. I understand the hesitancy. Anyway, we love you. There's nothing you can do about it.